It is not just you. Disney Genie Plus can be really confusing. That's why in today's video, we're going to take you step by step, screen by screen to clear away that confusion and help you have an amazing Disney World vacation. Let's go do it. Hi-ho everybody, this is Rob with Ear Scouts coming to you from the Magic Kingdom. Today we're going to be talking about Disney Genie Plus, and more specifically, we're going to be addressing the things that give people the most confusion, stress, anxiety about using this service. If you're not familiar with it, Disney Genie Plus replaced what used to be called Fast Pass. It is now a paid service that lets you skip the longest waits on most attractions here at Disney World. You're going to get access to what's called the Lightning Lane. That is essentially a line that's going to have a lot less people in it than the regular standby queue. We have made about 2.7 bajillion Disney Genie Plus videos here on our channel, and we get so many questions through the comments on our Facebook page, on the forum on our website, and so we kind of know now what are the things that are most confusing to people who are just starting out using this service. In today's video, we're going to cover all of those most common questions, and we're going to try to make it as clear as possible so that you won't get tripped up by those things when you're here at Disney World. I find it's always best to begin at the beginning, so let's start with booking your very first ride with Disney Genie Plus. This throws off a lot of people, especially when it comes to when can you book your first ride if you're not staying at a Disney World hotel. If you were wondering about this, I have good news for you, and that is that the answer is really simple, at least right now. It does not matter if you're staying at a Disney World hotel, or if you're staying at your aunt's house, or you're staying at one of those motels along the highway with a weird gift shop shaped like a wizard. It does not matter where you're staying when you're here at Walt Disney World. You can book your first Disney Genie Plus Lightning Lane at 7 o'clock a.m. Now, the reason that I said that this is the answer for now is because Disney has hinted that they are going to make some changes to Disney Genie Plus that will allow people to start planning their vacations before they even get to Disney World. I do think that probably they will be instituting some changes soon that will let you book your first Lightning Lane even sooner, but as of right now, that is not the case. If you want to find out if they do make that change before you come to visit, I'd recommend subscribing to our channel and ringing that bell, because that way you'll be notified as soon as our new videos come out, and we will definitely make a new video if they make any changes to Disney Genie Plus. So if the answer is as simple as you can book at 7 a.m., why do people find this so confusing? There's two reasons for that. One goes back to the old days when this system was called Fast Pass. Back then, you could book your first Fast Pass weeks before you arrived, and if you were staying at a Disney hotel or a qualifying partner hotel, you could book your ride even sooner than that. So people kind of had in their mind that there was this two-tier system, whether you were staying on property or not. The second reason that people get confused is because of individual attraction lightning lanes. So you hear that term, lightning lane? That's the same term that Disney uses for Disney Genie Plus. Disney Genie Plus uses lightning lanes so that you can get on the ride sooner. For the most popular rides at Disney World, we're going to throw the list up on the screen right now. Disney offers a different service from Genie Plus. It's called an individual attraction lightning lane. For this, you're going to pay per ride, per rider. It's not like Genie Plus where you pay once and you get a whole bunch of rides. You're going to pay for this one ride. And the key difference between Genie Plus, other than the fact that you've got to pay individually, is that if you're staying on property at a Disney World hotel, you can book your first individual attraction lightning lane starting at 7 a.m., whereas everybody else has to wait until the park opens. So people hear that, they hear if you're at a Disney World hotel, you can book that lightning lane starting at 7 a.m., but everybody else has to wait, and they think that applies to Genie Plus as well. It does not. They are completely separate systems, and as of right now, everybody, no matter where they're staying, can book at 7 a.m. for Disney Genie Plus. I went ahead and booked a Jungle Cruise as our first ride of the day, but we got a while before we can tap in there. It's not until 11 o'clock. It's not quite time to book our next ride yet, so what I recommend doing when you can't book a ride is go ahead and do some of the things that don't use Disney Genie Plus. There's a handful of attractions at the park that don't offer Disney Genie Plus. We'll throw that list up on the screen right now, but when you're in between lightning lanes and you're waiting to book the next one, I recommend do some of these things that don't use Disney Genie Plus. Get those crossed off your list, and especially when it's early in the day like this and the lines are shorter, this is a great time to ride those rides where you can't use Disney Genie Plus to shorten the wait. So let's go jump on one of those rides, and when we get off, we'll talk about booking ride number 2. Well, our first ride of the day is done, and that was actually a perfect first ride because that is actually the oldest ride in all of Disney World. It was built way back in 1917 by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company. Disney actually rehabilitated it, refurbished it, and brought it here to Disney World when it opened in 1971. Fun random fact for the day. But you're not here for random Disney facts, you're here for very specific Disney facts about Disney Genie Plus. So let's get back on track and talk about booking our next lightning lane. This is a topic that we're going to come back to throughout this video because while it seems simple, it's actually a surprisingly complex question to answer. But don't worry, we're going to take you through it. We're going to show you all the things that might trip you up. But first, let's go over what those rules are for when you can book your next ride. You can book your next ride with Disney Genie Plus either after waiting 2 hours from the time that you booked that first ride, or after you've tapped in at that last ride that you've booked and ridden it, or after the return window for that last ride that you booked has expired. When one of these things happens, you are free to book your next ride. And that doesn't mean that all of these things have to have happened. If any one of these things happens, that frees you up to book. So right now it is 9 a.m. We booked our first ride at 7 a.m. at the first moment that we could book it. So that should mean that we're able to book our next ride, right? Let's fire up the app and book our next ride. I think I'm gonna aim for Big Thunder Mountain. Let's tap in there and womp, womp, womp. So what's going on here? It says that I'm not eligible to book my next ride until 10 a.m., but I booked the first one at 7. That is because of a little asterisk that a lot of people don't realize. The 2-hour rule has an exception. That 2-hour rule applies to any ride that you book after the park opens. If, however, you book a ride before the park opens, like we did at 7 a.m., you have to wait 2 hours from the time the park opened. So today, Magic Kingdom opened at 8 a.m. That's why it's telling us we have to wait until 10 a.m. So unfortunately, that means we've got a little bit longer to wait before we can book our next ride. But I have good news for you. We can use the magic of editing to take you forward in time to the exact moment when we can book that next ride so you don't have to wait. Ready? Let's go. Ah, the magic of editing. So we are here now at Main Street and sitting in front of Town Square Theater in the rocking chairs. This is one of my favorite spots to just chill out when I'm in the park. It is now 10 o'clock on the dot, which means we can go ahead and book our next lightning lane. But the first thing I want to point out, you'll notice on my screen, I've got some rides pinned to the top. This is a question we get a lot. People will say, how do you pin those rides to the top of your tipboard screen? And more importantly, how do you change them? So in order to change the rides that are pinned up there, you see that little button link that says Edit Selections? You're gonna tap on that, and that is gonna bring up a menu that lets you choose the rides that you wanna have pinned to the top of that view. Now, what a lot of people will say is, on my screen, I don't see that link for Edit Selections. It's just not there. Usually, when you don't see Edit Selections, it means that you haven't set up the free Disney Genie service. So there's 2 flavors of Genie. There's Genie Plus, which is what you pay for to access the lightning lanes, but then there's just regular old Genie that is a free service. It kind of gives you suggestions for what you might want to do next in your day, but it also helps out when you're using Genie Plus by doing a few key things. First, it lets you choose your party. So the people that you put in your party will be the default people that get booked on lightning lanes whenever you book a lightning lane with Genie Plus. The second thing it lets you do is choose the rides that are most important to you, and this is going to make those rides be pinned to the top of that tipboard screen view, which is what you look at when you're booking those lightning lanes. I always recommend setting this service up first thing in the morning, right after you buy Disney Genie Plus, before you start booking your rides. Just go ahead and set up that free Disney Genie service, and this way you'll be all ready to go at 7 a.m. when it's time to book that first lightning lane. If you haven't looked at My Disney Experience in a while, you might notice that this screen of the main menu looks a little bit different than it used to, but basically it's similar. Things have just been moved around a little bit. What you're going to do is tap on that new lightning lanes button that's up there in the upper right. When you tap on that, that brings up the tipboard view, which is where you book those Genie Plus lightning lanes. And at the top, you'll see the button there where you can purchase Disney Genie Plus. There's also a tab, which is the My Day tab. That is where the free Disney Genie lives. So tap on My Day, and then you'll see a button there to get started setting up that free Genie service if you haven't done it already. Setting it up is super easy. You're just gonna basically tell it what park you're going to, you're gonna tell it who's in your party, and then you're gonna tell it what rides you're most interested in. The key here is you don't wanna pick too many rides. If you've got a whole bunch of stuff cluttering the top of the tipboard screen, that kind of defeats the purpose. Once you choose those rides, the next screen you're gonna see is gonna ask you if you're interested in things like princesses or other general topics. Don't select anything here, just continue. The reason is because that would actually add some more stuff into the top of your tipboard view, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So I did all that this morning, but let's come back to right now where we're gonna edit those selections and just focus on the rides we wanna book next. So back in that tipboard view, we're gonna tap on Edit Selections. We're gonna check the rides that we wanna focus on right now, and we're gonna uncheck the rides that we've already booked. So in our case, we're gonna uncheck Jungle Cruise, and we're gonna check Big Thunder Mountain and Pirates of the Caribbean. Once we do that, we head back to that tipboard screen view, and voila, there are our rides pinned to the top right out of the gate. I saw an amazing return time for Pirates of the Caribbean. It's 10:05, which basically means we can ride it right now. I went ahead and booked that, so let's head on over to Adventureland and tap in for our second ride of the day. We have narrowly escaped Davy Jones' locker, which means we can book another lightning lane. I actually did it as soon as we tapped in. While I was still in line, I went ahead and booked the lightning lane for the next ride. And a lot of people, when they see me do this in the videos, they say, wait a minute, Rob, how were you already able to book another ride? I thought you had to wait 2 hours. Again, let's go through that flow chart. So you can book your next ride either after waiting 2 hours from the time you booked the last one or when the park opened, or you can do it by tapping in at the most recent lightning lane that you booked. The most recent lightning lane we booked was Pirates of the Caribbean. So once I tapped in there, that meant I was free to book another ride. A lot of folks, they just wait 2 hours. They book, they wait 2 hours. The problem with that approach is you're not going to get nearly as many rides done if you wait 2 hours to do each one. In this case, we booked Pirates at 10 a.m. and we booked it for 10:05. That means that when we tapped in at 10:05, we were already set to book another lightning lane. If we had waited 2 hours, we wouldn't have been able to book again until noon. I always say, whenever possible, possible. You want to book that next ride as quickly as possible, and you want to get a time that is as close to the present time as possible, because that's going to let you book more rides in your day. The way that I recommend getting the best times is by doing what I call playing the Disney Genie slots. I use this term a lot in my videos, and people often ask in the comments, Rob, what do you mean when you say play the Disney Genie slots? Well, if you think of Disney Genie Plus as a tool for booking rides, you're going to find it to be really frustrating, because it's often very hard to get the ride at the time that you want it. However, if you instead think of Disney Genie Plus as a slot machine game that you have on your phone, and when you play that slot machine game, you have the opportunity to potentially win a much better return time on the ride you want to ride, then it turns from being a frustrating tool into a really fun game. I actually love playing the Disney Genie slots, and if you look at the comments on the videos, a lot of folks agree with me. It kind of makes it into a competitive sport. You can actually have multiple people playing the slots at the same time, so a lot of times you'll have a family and they'll all be playing the slots to see who can win the next ride. So I'm going to show you right now how you play the Disney Genie slots to get a better time. The first thing you want to do is just go ahead and book a time for the ride that you're aiming for. In this case, I was aiming to do Haunted Mansion next, so first thing I did, I edited my selections. I unchecked Pirates of the Caribbean because we already did that, and I checked Haunted Mansion. Once I had myself set for success, I went back to that tip board screen, and there's Haunted Mansion pinned to the top, along with Big Thunder, which is another ride I would like to get if possible. So once you've got your tip board all set up, you're gonna take your finger, you're gonna slide it down the screen, and you're gonna spin the reels on those Disney Genie slots. Essentially what you're doing is refreshing the view. You're checking the system to see if there are better times available. Every time you swipe your finger down the screen, you're going to refresh again, and you're going to get another chance to get better times. So I went ahead and I booked Haunted Mansion, and the time wasn't great. I knew I could play the slots a little bit more and get it even better. The good news is you don't have to stick with the time that you've booked. All you need to do is head back to that tip board screen, look for the ride that you have booked, and you'll see it's green now and there are 3 little dots. Tap on those 3 little dots, a menu pops up, and you're going to choose Modify Plan. Now you're going to see kind of a new tip board view where that ride that you have booked is pinned to the top. It's going to show you the time that you currently have it booked for, as well as the time you could book it for right now. And if you were to scroll down, you would see other rides you could switch to if you wanted to book something else instead. So once again, we're going to take our finger, slide it down the screen, play those Disney Genie slots, and try to get it a little bit better. In this case, we inched it up just a little bit. We got like 5 minutes shaved off. That's fine. Go ahead and take any win you can get. 5 minutes is 5 minutes. So we backed that up. But I wasn't satisfied. I knew we could do even better. So look what happened when I modified that time again. Boom, right out of the gate. I didn't even have to play the slots. It was right there waiting for me. I had a much better time, so I booked that. While we're talking about playing the Genie slots though, I want to show you a little wrinkle, something that's a little bit different, and that is when you're playing the Disney Genie slots first thing in the morning. At the beginning of the day, for the first 15 minutes, so from 7 to 7:15, Disney is going to hide the return times from the tip board view. So you're going to kind of have to tap in blindly. Now don't worry, once you tap in, it's going to show you the time that you can book it for, and you can choose to take it or not. But you can't see the times on the regular tip board view the way you can later in the day. The reason they hide these in the morning is because for those first 15 minutes, things are really volatile. If they were to show you the times on the tip board screen and you were to tap in, it is almost certain that someone else would have already grabbed that time and you'd be shown a different time. So I think Disney was getting a lot of complaints about that, and their solution was, we're just gonna hide it. The first 15 minutes, you just don't know what you're getting until you tap into it. But this does change your strategy a little bit. So when you're playing the Disney Genie slots regularly during the day, I recommend picking 2 or 3 rides. That way, there's 2 or 3 chances to get a great return time. You're not just focused on one. But in the morning, when you can't see the times, there's really no reason to pick 2 or 3 because you can't see any of them anyway. You're just going to tap in blindly. So in this case, I recommend only pick one ride first thing in the morning. Just when you set up your free Genie, pick one ride and one ride only to start. And that way, it just keeps it nice and clean. You can tap in as quickly as possible and hopefully get a great first ride time for the day. In our case this morning, I actually had a okay return time. I wasn't actually trying to get a good time, so I wasn't playing super competitively. In fact, my time was better than I wanted it to be for the purposes of this video, so I actually backed it up to be at 11 o'clock. That's an important thing I want everyone to know. In today's video, I am purposefully choosing things in order to illustrate points, in order to show you these confusing things that can crop up. Today, I am not trying to maximize the use of Disney Genie Plus. If you want to get the most out of this service, if you want to know the strategy of what to book when, check out one of our other Disney Genie Plus videos, especially our 27 tips for using Disney Genie Plus. We actually have a new version we did just last year where we updated everything. Start there and you're going to learn a lot about how to maximize this service. Today, we're just going to focus on the things that are most likely to trip you up. But for right now, we got a lightning lane to get to, so let's head over to hang out with 999 Happy Haunts at the Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion, always a ghastly good time. Right now is also going to be a good time to ride another ride. That's because we booked Jungle Cruise this morning for 11 o'clock and it is now after 11 o'clock, so we can go ride the Jungle Cruise. But this is also a good time for us to book our next lightning lane because, of course, we tapped in here at Haunted Mansion. This is also a good opportunity for me to clear up another thing that causes lots of confusion, and that is related to park hopping with Disney Genie Plus. Things have definitely changed with park hopping. If you haven't been to the parks in a while, number one, all-day park hopping is back, so that's good news. You used to have to wait until 2 p.m. before you could hop to your next park, but now that restriction is gone. You can hop whenever you want. That also meant that before, when you used Disney Genie Plus, you weren't allowed to book a ride in another park until after 2 p.m. That restriction is no longer there, so that's all good news. The bad news is now Disney Genie Plus requires that you purchase a specific flavor of Disney Genie Plus if you want to park hop. So it's going to be a different price now depending on which park you want to use Disney Genie Plus in. And if you want to use it in all the parks, that is going to be the most expensive option. It's usually, however, the same price as just getting Magic Kingdom, which is the most expensive park. So if you're doing Magic Kingdom, you might as well go ahead and get the park hopper option because it's the same price, and you never know. You might want to park hop later in the day, even if it's not in your plan. But for us, it definitely is in our plan, so we purchased that park hopper option this morning. Let's go ahead and book our next ride for our next park, which is going to be Hollywood Studios. Up at the top of your tipboard screen, you're going to see a link where you can change park. Tap on that, choose the park that you're going to, and then voila, you have a brand new tipboard for that park. However, there is something very important missing here. Do you notice that there is no longer an Edit Selections button? Unfortunately, if you just hit Change Park, that does not allow you to continue using that free Genie service in your new park. In order to do that, you're going to have to do an extra step. Don't worry, it's super easy, and I'm going to show it to you right now. Tap over on that My Day tab and then scroll all the way to the bottom of My Day, and down there you're going to find a link for Plan for Your Next Park. Tap on that link, let it know the park that you're going to, and then it's going to take you through that same process you did when you set up the Genie service to begin with. It's going to ask you who's going with you to the next park, it's going to ask you which rides you're interested in, and this is basically going to be the same things that we did before, only now for Hollywood Studios. In my case, I picked Tower of Terror because I knew I wanted to ride that next, and I also threw in Slinky Dog Dash because that's a really tough to grab lightning lane, so I always wanted to keep keep an eye on that. If it pops up and it's available, I might just grab it. So I'll probably keep Slinky Dog Dash in my favorites up there at the top while we're over at Hollywood Studios. Also notice that our Edit Selections button is there again, so now we can use this tip board just like we were using the tip board over at Magic Kingdom. We will, of course, need to repeat this process if we hop to other parks. So I went ahead and I grabbed a time for Tower of Terror. It wasn't great, but as we showed you before, we can go ahead and play those Genie slots to make it a little bit better. There is one other really important point I want to show you guys when you are park hopping with the Genie. Let's go ahead and modify that Tower of Terror reservation that we have booked. And I want to show you something. Notice that in this view, there is no link to change park. There is no way that you can turn this reservation into a different ride that is at a different park. So if you want to modify a lightning lane, you're going to be stuck modifying it to turn into another ride in that same park. I bring this up because sometimes you might want to play for multiple rides at the same time, trying to see which one you can get a better time for, but note, you are going to be restricted to the same park as the ride you have booked. So if we wanted to try for another ride here at Magic Kingdom, we would need to cancel our ride over at Hollywood Studios and start over booking here at Magic Kingdom. Well, we've got ourselves all set for our next park, but first, we've got one last ride to do in this one. Let's head into Adventureland and ride Jungle Cruise.
Hello everybody, welcome aboard the world famous Jungle Cruise. My name is Skipper Emily and I'm going to be many things for you today, such as your skipper, tour guide, hippo wrestler, dance instructor, and therapist. But do not tell me about your problems. I have enough of my own. What I wear for a living. But if you enjoyed my cruise today, thank you guys so much. My name is Skipper Emily. That is spelled S-A-V-E-M-E. Cry for help is silent.
Hooray for Skipper Emily. She was amazing. I love it when you have a great skipper and you hear new jokes you've never heard before. Skipper Emily was awesome. But you know what else is awesome? We just tapped in at a ride, so that means we can book another ride, right? Let's fire up the app. Let's go ahead and book Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That sounds good. Wait, what? It says here that I'm not eligible to book. Now, why wouldn't I be eligible to book? Every other time that we've tapped in at a ride today, we've been able to book another one. This is something that trips people up all the time. We see it in questions and comments. People are like, I don't understand. I tapped in at the ride. I wasn't able to book another one. Here is the important distinction that people are missing. You have to tap in at the most recent lightning lane that you've booked. For us, the most recent lightning lane we booked was actually Tower of Terror. We booked Jungle Cruise way back at 7 a.m. So unfortunately, tapping in at Jungle Cruise doesn't do anything for us in terms of being able to book that next lightning lane. If we want to book another ride, that's going to mean we either need to wait 2 hours from the time that we booked Tower of Terror, or we need to hightail it over to Hollywood Studios and tap in, because that will free us up to book another ride. Let's go do it. We're running just a little bit late. We finally made it over to Hollywood Studios, but our lightning lane actually just expired for Tower of Terror. But I have good news for you, and that is that your lightning lanes have a grace period. A lot of people don't realize it, but you can actually tap in at the ride 5 minutes early or up to 20 minutes late. But when you're late, you can oftentimes tap in way past 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, it's up to the discretion of the cast member, but in most cases, especially if the ride isn't crazy backed up, they'll still let you use that lightning lane. So it's always worth trying to tap in, even if you're beyond that 20-minute grace period. Man, I'm exhausted from that park hop. I sure hope the elevator's working to this hotel. I'd hate to take the stairs.
Descend into your very own episode of the Twilight Zone.
On second thought, I really should have taken the stairs. On a brighter note, I was able to book our next ride while I was in there. I went ahead and started booking as soon as I tapped in, and I grabbed us a time for Star Tours. Star Tours, generally a pretty easy Lightning Lane to book. We got a really great return time of 1:35. I wanted to do it though because there's actually a new scene from Ahsoka. If you've been watching that series, you can now take an adventure that was inspired by one of the episodes of Ahsoka. It's also possible that you'll get one of those little in-between scenes with the Mandalorian or Cassian Andor or Ahsoka herself. The next confusing thing I want to talk about involves the 2-hour rule. So you remember, one of the ways that we can book our next Lightning Lane is by waiting 2 hours. If you didn't make note of when you booked your last Lightning Lane, there's a really easy way to check to see when you're using the 2-hour rule how much longer you have to wait. Just look in your tipboard screen, and up at the top, there's going to be a blue bar. That blue bar is always going to show you when you can book your next Lightning Lane. But here's something interesting. So I actually booked Star Tours for 1:35 just a little bit ago. But look at what the blue bar says right now. It says that I can book my next Lightning Lane at 2:35. That's way less than 2 hours. So how is this possible? The answer is because we were in the Twilight Zone. If you book a Lightning Lane from inside the Tower of Terror while you are in the Twilight Zone, it actually only takes 1 hour for you to ride the next ride. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't go to the Tower of Terror to book your Lightning Lanes. You're not going to get anything special to happen. No, what we're seeing happen here is another thing that confuses people. So you remember those 3 different ways that you can book your next ride. Number 1, waiting 2 hours. Number 2, tapping in at the most recent Lightning Lane that you booked. But then there is number 3, and that is when your current Lightning Lane expires. So this Lightning Lane for Star Tours is from 1:35 to 2:35. So that actually means that we're going to be free at 2:35, which is well earlier than the 2 hours that we would have had to wait if this Lightning Lane was a lot later in the day. I mention this because while the blue bar is really handy, some folks do get a little confused by it, especially in situations like this. I get comments all the time where people are like, check this out. The blue bar messed up, or Genie was fritzing out and it let me book a ride early, but really what was happening was they were just getting to book early because their current Lightning Lane would expire. So I always recommend go ahead and book your next Lightning Lane as soon as you tap in. Do it if you can while you're still in line for that attraction. The reason is because what else you got to do in the line, right? You might as well be using that time to book your next ride rather than having to book it when you get out when you should be enjoying the park. But there is a little thing that can sometimes happen that throws people off. Certain rides, and Tower of Terror is one of them, they have 2 tap-in points. So there's one at the entrance to the ride, but there's another one right before you're gonna board. They do this so that people don't jump into the Lightning Lane who aren't supposed to be there. It's kind of a second check. But unfortunately, it does mean that you can't book your next ride until you hit that second checkpoint. So if you tap into the ride and you try to immediately go book something else and it won't let you, 9 times out of 10, it just means that there's a second touch point up ahead. And once you tap in there, you'll be able to book your next ride. Well, now it's time to make the jump to light speed and travel to a galaxy far, far away. Let's go tap in at Star Tours.
Fly this thing? No, neither can you. We need a proper pilot.
Hold it right there, Captain. This is the speeder we're looking for. Blast up.
It seems the Force was with us because we got the new scene on Star Tours. Actually, I think everybody's getting the new scene right now. It just launched, so I think they're making sure that everybody who rides Star Tours gets to see the new Purrgil whale scene. But it's still really cool to get to check that out. I love Star Tours because there's just 100 and some different combinations you can get. It's always a different ride. However, I think it's important to note there are some people who do not love Star Tours because it can make them feel motion sick. And the reason I bring this up is, one, to warn you if you've got anyone in your party, but two, to talk about canceling someone from a lightning lane. So let's say we booked Star Tours for a group and some members of our group didn't want to ride it. It's kind of confusing how you remove that one member of your party. Unfortunately, I can't show you on the screen today how to cancel someone from a ride because, well, it's just me. So if I cancel, I'm canceling everybody. But if you had a group that is larger than just me, I'm going to show you sort of how you would do it. You tap on those three dots just like you were going to modify the lightning lane, but then you would tap on cancel plan instead. Don't worry, as long as there's more than one of you, it's going to ask you who you want to cancel for, and that'll give you the chance to just check the people who don't want to ride, and everybody else is still going to have their lightning lane. One thing you might have noticed in this video, and this does get commented on a lot in our videos, is we have ridden a whole lot of rides today, and for some reason people have it in their heads that you can only book 2 to 3 lightning lanes using Genie Plus, and that's the limit. I think the source of this is that in their marketing materials for Genie Plus, Disney will say that you can expect to ride 2 to 3 attractions. I think they just say that because they want to set people's expectations low in the event that they're not successfully using Genie Plus, they have a hard time figuring it out, they haven't watched videos like this. They may only book 2 or 3 rides if they're not knowing how to use it. And so Disney puts that in there to kind of set expectations at that level. But if you know what you're doing, there is no limit to how many rides you can book with Genie Plus. Basically, the only limit is you can only book each ride once, but you can definitely book every ride in the park if you play your cards right. Again, check out our other videos if you want to learn the specifics for how to strategize your day to get as much done as possible, but there is no limit on Genie Plus. That said, remember those other lightning lanes we talked about? The individual attraction lightning lanes that are confusing because they have the same name, but they're a different thing? Those do have a limit. For those, you can only book 2 per day. So you can book as many lightning lanes as you want with Genie Plus, but with individual attraction, you do have the limit of 2. But since we can book as many rides as we want, I went ahead and booked our next one for right here at Mickey & Minnie's Runaway Railway. Let's go run this train off the tracks, and then we'll meet you back here in the front of the theater to cover our final tips for this video. Let's go do it. Was a lovely last ride of the day, but before we go, I have got a lightning round of lightning lane tips for you. These are the last round of things that sometimes confuse people, so we're going to cover them really quick right here at the end. First off is bonus lightning lanes. We did not get one today. I was kind of hoping we would. When I say bonus lightning lane, what I mean is when a ride goes down while you have a lightning lane booked, Disney will give you what they call an experience redemption. I call it a bonus lightning lane because that's essentially what it is. You'll have something called an experience redemption in your My Day view. When you tap on it, there's a link in there that'll let you see the attractions that it's good for. It'll always be good for the attraction that you got it for, but it'll also be good for a list of others. Do note, it doesn't work on every ride in the park. Typically, for example, if you got it for Mickey & Minnie's Runaway Railway, you wouldn't be able to use it on, say, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance because that is a much more popular ride. It's usually rides that are kind of at the same level or below. What's confusing about this is 2 things. Number 1, people don't realize that once you've got that bonus, you no longer have a lightning lane booked because your lightning lane turned into that. So that means you can go ahead and immediately book something else. Don't wait until you use that bonus lightning lane, just go ahead and book, and then you'll have that bonus in your back pocket. The second confusing thing is how you use that lightning lane. A lot of people think that maybe they need to schedule it before they can go to the ride. It's super easy. All you have to do is go to one of those rides on the list, tap in as if you have a lightning lane, even though you don't, and that bonus is going to kick in and make it work. The thing you have to watch out for, though, let's say that you had a lightning lane booked for, we'll say, Star Tours. If you went to Star Tours before that 5-minute grace period started, instead of using your Star Tours lightning lane, it would use up that bonus, which would really stink to use a bonus lightning lane on something like Star Tours. So just be careful that whenever you tap in at a ride, make sure you're on time for that lightning lane or it's going to use the bonus. The next thing that confuses people is they will be at the park on a really busy day and maybe they'll be in a large party and they'll find that it's a lot harder for them to play the Disney Genie slots than what they see in these videos. The reason for this is that basically Disney has two different baskets of lightning lanes. One is for larger parties, say parties of 5 or more. The other basket is for smaller groups of 4 or less, and those are a lot more plentiful. So if you're here on a busy day, number one, no matter how big your party is, it's going to be tougher to book just because it's more competitive. But if you have a large party and you're here on a busy day, it's going to become a lot more competitive. So don't worry, it's not that you're doing something wrong, that's just the nature of the beast. If you've got a large group on a busy day, it's going to be a lot tougher than it is for us when we do these videos. That said, you definitely still can win those Genie slots, you just have to have more patience. I recommend if you've got a large group and it's a busy day, make sure you get those key attractions done early in the morning. And if it becomes later in the day, you might want to consider splitting your group into smaller groups, and that way your smaller groups will likely have more success booking rides. Just make sure your groups are 4 or less. If you want to split up your group, it's really easy to do. Go over to the My Day tab and you're going to tap on the Edit Selections button that's there. Note, this is different from Edit Selections over on the tip board. When you do this on My Day, it lets you basically change everything, including the members of your party. So just go ahead, go to this screen and set your default party to be a group of 4 or less, and then you're going to be good to go. When you try to book lightning lanes, it's only going to be looking for that smaller group of 4 or less, and you're going to have more success, especially later in the day on busy days. That said, this is obviously a lot more complicated than booking for the whole group, so I only recommend doing this as a last resort, typically later in the day. My other lightning round lightning lane tip involves those individual attraction lightning lanes. We get this question a lot. Let's say that you were to book an individual attraction lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance. People often want to know, will that stop them from booking another Genie Plus lightning lane the way it would if, say, they booked a regular ride? The answer is no. Individual attraction lightning lane system and Genie Plus lightning lane system are totally separate. They do not affect each other at all. So you could book Rise of the Resistance and there's no need to wait 2 hours. You can immediately go ahead and book another Genie Plus lightning lane if you are already eligible. That's also true when you're booking a second individual attraction lightning lane. Remember, you can book 2 of those and you can actually book them one after the other. You don't need to wait 2 hours the way you would with a Genie Plus lightning lane. And then my final tip is this thing right here. Look at this screen and you see lots and lots of rides are showing not currently offered. This is the thing that trips people up the most. They see not currently offered and they think, boom, I'm not going to be able to ride that ride, and they stop trying to book it. Here's the thing. It doesn't say no longer available, it says not currently offered. And the reason for that is because these lightning lanes can and often do come back into play. If someone cancels their lightning lane, for example, because they decide they want to book something else, that would free that lightning lane up, so it would be available again. In addition, if the ride is going along smoothly and they've got space to fill, Disney will sprinkle in more lightning lanes throughout the day. So it is not uncommon at all to find a lightning lane for a ride that showed as not currently offered all day long, as is the case today with Slinky Dog Dash. That one has shown as not currently offered every time I've looked. That said, I guarantee you, if I took some time, if I had enough patience, I could definitely still book Slinky Dog even now. The exceptions to that are 2. 1, if a ride has been down for an extended period of time and Disney doesn't know if that ride's going to come back up, then they will sometimes turn off the lightning lane. So you may have no luck if the ride is down. The other exception to this is really late in the day. So say for the last 30 minutes of park time, a lot of times as it gets close to the end of the night, Disney just turns the lightning lane system off. So if you don't have something booked already in that last 30 minutes, you're probably not going to be able to get anything. So I recommend go ahead and book your last lightning lane at least 30 minutes before the park closes. Well, that's all the tips I got for this video. If you still have questions, just leave them in the comments down below, or even better, head over to the Ear Scouts forum, and that way your question will probably get answered even more quickly because there's other folks helping out over there. Just head to earscouts.com and click on the forum. I want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon family. Thank you guys so much for making videos like this possible. If you're interested in joining that community and getting access to special bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. And of course, I want to thank all of you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you're not going to get confused at all when you use Disney Genie Plus on your next trip to Disney World. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. That helps our channel a lot. And go ahead and subscribe to our channel and ring that bell. That way you'll be notified whenever new videos like this come out. Until next time, don't forget to think happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.